What's happening, everybody? Justin, Bridgewater's finest on YouTube, Blockbuster_guy on Twitter, and welcome to week 20 of my weekly CFL football pick show for the 2024 CFL season. And it's the late night episode, I guess, and I'm the man in black, Bridgewater's finest today. We had a bit of a weird situation here coming off the holiday. Of course, happy Thanksgiving, belated Thanksgiving to everybody. A little bit of a weird situation coming off the holiday where we didn't have any lines this afternoon or this morning. So it's tough to record this show when you don't have any betting lines. So I had to go to work, and then I came back from work, and now we're doing the show. And so I'm going to be a little bit loopy today because I had a full work day ahead of me. But we're here, week 20 CFL picks, only 3 games on the slate in week 20. It's going to be another very much off the dome, off the cuff edition. And last week that led me to complete even money. 2-2 straight up, 2-2 against the spread, 2-2 over under, 6-6 total. But what that means is I'm still 24 full games over 500 on the season. 122, 98, and 2. It's been one of my most successful seasons picking and predicting the CFL to date, and I'm having a whole lot of fun. I'm above 500 across the board, 43, 29, and 2 straight up. I'm feeling pretty good about the handle that I have on the league. Cue a terrible week incoming. Tell you where I didn't have a terrible week, and that's one of those beautiful segues that I like to do. That's CFL Fantasy, and for 2 weeks in a row now, I've been up above triple digits in CFL Fantasy, and I had another top 50 performance in my league, in Derek Taylor's league, and just outside a top 250 performance overall in week 19 action, 113.3 in CFL Fantasy. My team was the pinned comment on last week's video. Geno Lewis was my headliner. He was my MOP, 24.1 points. He put up a big performance there. I'm at 1925 now on the season, 222nd in Derek Taylor's league, and inside the top 1900 of the overall game. So I'm making a real late season push here in CFL Fantasy. As I said, we've only got 3 games in CFL action in week 20, which means 3 teams are on the very late season bye. We are looking at the Calgary Stampeders in Hamilton taking on a Ticats team coming off of their bye, speaking of. The Ottawa REDBLACKS on the tail end of back-to-back road games in Toronto taking on the Argos in a game that now all of a sudden looms very large for them. And the Montreal Alouettes on the road in BC taking on a Lions team that's turning to Vernon Adams at quarterback. But let's start in Hamilton, where the Ticats are going to play host to the Calgary Stampeders. These are obviously now both non-playoff teams, as Toronto's win last week officially eliminated the Hamilton Ticats, and obviously for a couple of weeks now, there's been no crossover scenario. The Stamps did do exactly what I said they would do, by the way. Turn around and take a look at another quarterback. They did bench Jake Maier last week and went with Matthew Shiltz. So Matthew Shiltz went 55% for completing his passes, 215, a touchdown, and a pick. Was also the Stamps' leading rusher last week with 64 yards on just 5 carries. And look, he had the Stamps in the red zone with a chance to win the game at the end. I think that probably earned him another start. Also going to do something fun in the episode this week. We're going to go milestone watching. We're going to take a look at some players who are approaching either some career milestones or seasonal milestones or what have you. And the main one I kind of want to highlight here, Bo Levi Mitchell has a chance here in the last couple of weeks of the season to not only eclipse 5,000 yards passing, but also eclipse 30 passing touchdowns. He is within reach of both of those things. And Hamilton has 4 wide receivers that at least have a chance at getting to 1,000 yards receiving. And that I think is pretty impressive. The names obviously that you would know, Shamar Bridges, Tim White I think only needs like 2 yards or something to get to 1,000 yard season. That's great. But Keandre Smith has got a chance at 1,000 yard season. And there's one more. Oh, Stephen Dunbar. Stephen Dunbar has a chance at a 1,000-yard season as well. So you're looking at 4 receivers who may potentially have a chance at topping 1,000 yards here in the last couple of weeks of the season. And the big question that I'm asking coming out of this game and into the final week, can Bo Levi Mitchell potentially still win the most outstanding player on a non-playoff team? Like, he's leading these sexy stat categories among quarterbacks by large margins. Like, nobody's going to catch him for passing yards, and nobody may catch him for passing touchdowns. If he eclipses 5,000 yards and 30 passing touchdowns, even on a team that doesn't make the playoffs, how can you deny him most outstanding player? I think Bo takes a big step towards both of those goals this week. I think Hamilton cruises in this game. High-scoring affair. Let's take the Ticats at home coming off the bye to beat the Stampeders. On the line, which we finally have, thank you Vegas for finally not being cowards, Hamilton is laying -2.5 here as a home favorite. I like him to win. It's a small price to pay. Let's lay the -2.5. Total in the game set at 51. I really like the over here. Both teams kind of trending towards the over lately. So let's take over 51 points in Hamilton, Calgary. Give me a final score of, say, give me like a 34-24. Something like that. So Ticats win, Ticats cover, and give me a pretty strong over on the points. Let's go to Toronto now, where the Argos are going to play host to the Ottawa REDBLACKS. And lest anyone question why last week I made such a big deal about why that game, Ottawa and Montreal, was so critically important to the REDBLACKS, lest anyone question that, now this is a must-win for Ottawa to have any chance at a home playoff game. If Toronto wins this game, Toronto's hosting the East semifinal. And the Argos are exceptionally good at home this year. They're 6-2 coming into this game. The REDBLACKS are not good on the road. They're 2-6 away from home coming into this game. Lest anyone question why I made such a big deal about that, that's exactly why. You're trying to not get bounced in the East semifinal. Playing at home gives you the best chance to win. This is an absolute must-win game for the REDBLACKS. Speaking of the REDBLACKS, Jeremiah Masoli was fairly average for them last week. He didn't have a great statistical game, and we got to ask now, like, if Drew Brown is healthy, do they go back to Drew Brown, given that, Masoli was pretty average last week? We have to assume that they're going to go back to Drew Brown. Like, we also have a milestone watch in today's game, or in this game anyway. The milestone watch is Kadeem Carey, who is just a few rushing yards away from setting a new career personal best in rush yards. That number is 1,088. I think he's got 1,030 something. So he's got 2 games here to set a new personal best. I don't see any way that he doesn't. Look, I'm going to punish the REDBLACKS here. I'm going to punish them for the fact that I don't think they played in the situation that they had. I don't think they played with the urgency last week of, I need to do this. Like, I need to play this game like it's the last game I'm ever going to play. Like, this is the urgency that I have to play this game with, because this could be do or die in terms of my playoff future. Like, just a few weeks ago, it looked like a lock, a layup, that the REDBLACKS were going to host the East semifinal. Now, if they lose this game, they're definitively not going to host the East semifinal. Yes, you made the playoffs, and that's great, but they've been on a real slide lately. I don't trust them in this spot. Give me the Argos in Toronto to get the win over the REDBLACKS. On the line, Toronto is also laying -2.5 against the spread. I like them to win. It's a small price to pay. Let's go ahead and lay the -2.5. Total in this game set at 49.5. This is a pretty damn good number, and I think it's going to wind up somewhere in this area. I'm going to take a very marginal under on it because I don't know what I'm going to get from the REDBLACKS on the offensive side of the ball. Give me under on the 49.5 point total. Let's go Argos 28, REDBLACKS 20. Let's do that. That's a pretty close under. That gets to 48, but not quite to the 49.5 point total. So Argos win, Argos cover. Give me the under on the points, 28-20 Toronto. And our third and final game is meaningless, so let's just have some fun with it. The Montreal Alouettes on the road in BC taking on the BC Lions. Neither team has anything to play for here. Montreal's already wrapped up the East Division. They're not playing the first week of the playoffs. BC is already locked into going to Saskatchewan to play the Riders in the West semifinal. BC is also the lucky team to have the bye in week 21 with a playoff spot already wrapped up. So absolutely no need for them to rest players in this spot. And as they announced earlier today, they're taking the turn and they're going to Vernon Adams at quarterback. Nathan Rourke was videoed, I think 45 minutes after practice today, still on the field, kind of doing laps, running the field. Like a good sign for a player like that to kind of take that news in stride and keep working to get better. So that's the kind of the Nathan Rourke that we kind of have come to know and kind of expect from him, which is nice. The Alouettes may very well continue the beginning of their resting trend from last week, where, obviously they gave Fajardo a rest week last week. I wouldn't be surprised to see Fajardo start this week, because they can then just turn around next week and rest him again and then have the bye week or whatever. It's very interesting kind of dynamics that come into play when you have so much off time before your next game that matters. So I wouldn't be surprised to see them continue resting in certain spots. Either quarterback here, I think, give the Owls a great chance to win basically any football game, but this football game in particular. And we do have a milestone watch, actually a couple of them in this game. That is Walter Fletcher is on pace here, if they keep him in, has a great shot at eclipsing 1,500 all-purpose yards on the season. He's very close. I think he's at 13 something. So, give him 2 more games. He probably gets up over 1,500. And William Stanback, kind of the same as Kadeem Carey, has a great chance here in this game to set a new personal best in rush yards. He's at 1176. I think he might be at like 1150 something or 1140 something. Like, doesn't even need to have a solid performance in this game to set a new personal best. And he's been getting obviously a ton of volume this season. I think more volume in the run game than he's ever been given before. So shout out to them. They'll likely set new personal bests, that being Walter Fletcher in APY and William Stanback in rush yards. Nice potential tune-up game here for the Alouettes, facing an opponent who they may wind up seeing in the Grey Cup. Like, there's at the very least a chance that they might see him in the Grey Cup. Their former quarterback playing against them in this one too. So there's storylines going into this one, and it should be a nice tune-up game for the Alouettes. I don't think Montreal wants to get too complacent and not really, the result is whatever the result is. Like, this is a team that's trying to win back-to-back championships and are very invested in winning back-to-back championships. So let's take Montreal here. I haven't loved the way that the Lions have been playing as of late. Let's take Montreal on the road to get the win over BC. On the line, Montreal is actually laying a single point here as the road favorite. Like them to win. Let's lay the -1. Total in the game set at 47 points. It's the lowest total of the week, but I like it to stay under. I think this is another defensive battle, somewhat similar to what we saw last week. Let's take under the 47-point total in Montreal and BC. Let's go like a 24-17, something like that, for the Alouettes. So Montreal wins. Montreal covers the -1 and give me the under on the 47-point total. There it is, ladies and gents. We're going to get you out of here nice and quick in this Week 20 episode. In terms of CFL Fantasy, I'm going to be hammering Hamilton Ticats. Bo Levi Mitchell is definitely my starting quarterback, assuming he gets the start in this game, which I don't know why he wouldn't. Definitely have a sprinkle of some Toronto Argos in there. Might look at some of those, like maybe Walter Fletcher and William Stanback, where I expect they're both going to be kind of, again, jockeying for those kind of milestone yardage ranks. So may very well look at them. Defensively, I think this is a great week to overspend on the Alouettes, or potentially, if you like the Lions, I think spending on the Lions defense might be a decent investment there as well. Kind of tough goings here where, again, you only have 3 games to choose from. That's it for me, Justin, Bridgewater's Finest on YouTube, Blockbuster_guy on Twitter, the Week 20 episode, another kind of off the dome part 2, and we will see you again for Week 21, the final week of the CFL regular season. The playoffs are going to be here before we know it.